And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very exciting show today on the 13th day of October 2022. And hi, what's Brisbane doing? Yes, it's 23 degrees and mostly sunny right here. Hi, it's wonderful to have your company. And today we have for you the news update in the very beginning, and then we have our daily India report, and of course we'll be finishing off with the upcoming functions and events. So let's get started.
InfoWars host Alex Jones will now need to pay Sandy Hook families $1.5 billion after a court ruling. Our North America correspondent Barbara Miller joins us now from Washington. Barbara, this has had a long lead up, and it's not the last of the court cases to come for Alex Jones, but it's been all about this steady spewing of hoax claims that he's come out with.
That's right, a lead-up of a decade. The Sandy Hook shooting, in which 20 children and 6 adults were killed, was now almost 10 years ago. Alex Jones earlier this year was ordered to pay about 50 million US, 65 million Australian in a similar case. Today, he's been ordered to make this massive payout, as you say, $1.5 billion to Sandy Hook families. Also, an FBI agent who was a first responder there was also one of the complainants in this case. And that's because he perpetrated for years the lie that this shooting was a hoax, that the people were actors. It was alleged in the court case that he did this in order to drive traffic to his InfoWars website, that he made millions of dollars from the products he was able to sell there and was able to keep boosting his image. Over this court case in Connecticut, it's lasted several weeks, and the testimony from the families of the victims has been harrowing as they described the trauma that they have suffered from being exposed to these lies. Quite distressing details, someone urinating on the grave of a young child, another family saying that they decided not to engage with those lies for years because you didn't engage with bullies, but then they decided that they were failing their dead daughter if they didn't engage with these lies. As you say, Lisa, another case, a similar case is expected again in Texas later this year. The big question is whether Alex Jones will ever pay any of this money. He has filed for bankruptcy. There is dispute about how much money he actually has. I think the parents who were in court today, and many of them weeping as these big sums were handed down, for many of them it's not really about that huge sum. It's about this victory in this ongoing case, that finally there has been some recognition of the pain that they have gone through, and that this was in fact a lie that he perpetrated, that they were actors and that their children were never killed.
Right, so that's a landslide information there, but well, it's been going on for such a long time, and whether he has that kind of money to pay, as we know that he has already filed for a bankruptcy. So we'll see what happens out of that. Right now, how far has Australia changed in a decade? We are, of course, forever changing. Change is inevitable. The only constant in life is change. So how far have we changed in the last decade?
Australians are getting older. What's more surprising, though, is how quickly this is changing the jobs we do. Andrew Mifsud owns an occupational therapy business and can barely keep up.
You can see the demand there in the community of people wanting OTs. I mean, we've got a wait list of 4 months.
Helping people who are becoming less mobile is a boom industry as the population ages.
People come to us when they have a challenge in everyday life, whether that's cleaning, eating, cooking, going out and seeing friends.
New census data shows incredible growth in the health and caring workforce over the past decade. The number of occupational therapists doubled between 2011 and 2021. It's the same with aged and disability carers. Their numbers also more than doubling. And the tech industry is transforming too. Jobs for computer programmers, for example, up more than 90%. But it's not all one way. Technology is also replacing jobs. Australia's farm workforce has almost halved over the past generation, And agriculture now has the oldest employees of any industry. The census also shows Australians are more educated than ever. Most of us get a qualification after leaving school. The number of people with a trade or vocational training has been pretty steady for a generation. The big change is that far more of us are going to university. Last year's census was carried out in very trying circumstances, with almost half the country in lockdown. The data released today will be studied for years to come, and it will help us understand not only how the pandemic affected the workforce, but Australia as a whole. Marcus Manheim, ABC News, Canberra.
Well, affecting Australia as a whole, as we know that, those kind of changes are taking place. We are getting more educated, more people are getting into the vocational area as well. Now, the key factor that remains there, the thing that we really need to look at is productivity, and of course, how many people are in the workforce as well, and also the social security lines, what are the toll on the government? Can we get more people out into the workforces and into the productive area of the society, so that people are actually contributing to the development of this nation, same as everyone else. Well, right now, the floodwaters in New South Wales continues to take toll as a man dies, unfortunately.
A commute that ended in tragedy. Police say a man from the Essington area left for work on Sunday but never arrived. During an aerial search, officers spotted a vehicle in floodwaters downstream of a crossing.
A Mitsubishi Triton utility has been recovered from the Campbells River. As a result of that recovery, unfortunately, a 46-year-old male was located deceased in that vehicle.
It's the second death related to the ongoing flood crisis across inland New South Wales.
Unfortunately, this is another tragic reminder of how seriously we need people to take flood conditions.
In Wagga Wagga in the state's south, the Murrumbidgee River is rising, expected to peak at moderate flood level tonight. Some residents in low-lying areas have evacuated, but others have chosen to stay in their homes and isolate.
No more than a couple of days in most of those locations. If they do need resupply, we've got options available to get essential goods and services in.
The SES doesn't expect the flood-prone suburb of North Wagga to become inundated, but residents are still nervous about major access roads being cut.
We are quite on edge. It's concerning knowing that there is more water to come.
More rain started falling across southern New South Wales this afternoon, and it's likely to continue until the end of the week. The SES doesn't expect the rain will affect the flood peak in the Murrumbidgee, but it could result in renewed rises in this already swollen river system. Melinda Hayter, ABC News, Wagga Wagga.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's right. As the news is that if it is flooded, forget it. But many times people do not take heed of those warnings, and they do drive through the flooded waters, and which results in casualties. And at the moment, it is a watch and act the scenario, but we will see if there are warnings for other areas, and advice to everyone is, as soon as the warnings are issued, please act on them sooner than later. Well, right now for the next news, the viewer advice is recommended. Please take a look at that, and this is looking at how remote nesses are traumatized after being pelted by rocks. Here's that report.
Smashed windows and a possible concussion. A remote nurse has recalled for the coroner the moment she went into fight or flight mode on a night that still traumatises her. The rock smashed through the driver's side window. The smashed, shattered glass hit me on the head and shoulder. I didn't realise what it was. It just seemed like some sort of explosion, and then I felt blood dripping down and was trying to veer off the road to avoid running over someone. Yullamu nurse Lorraine Walcott said she was driving her ambulance to the Yuendamu airstrip in a police convoy to pick up more officers. She said she did as local police asked. She didn't know why the ambulance was required and didn't realise the trip deceived the community into thinking Kumanjai Walker was getting medical help. The nurse said when she learned earlier that day the Yuendamu clinic would be evacuated after 4 attempted break-ins to staff homes, she was concerned only 2 Yullamu-based staff would be left to cover emergencies. The coroner also heard from the General Manager of Primary Healthcare in Central Australia, who was involved in the decision to withdraw the Yuendamu-based nurses. He told the court he was of the understanding that 2 nurses would stay in Yullamu to help in case of an emergency. He says he has no idea why that didn't happen. David Reeves said the staff were evacuated because of a perceived risk to their safety. He acknowledged the Indigenous staff should have been involved in discussions and told the coroner today if he'd known in November 2019 what he knows now, his decision could have been different. The inquest comes almost 3 years since Kumanjai Walker died. The officer responsible has since been acquitted of all charges. Melissa McKay, ABC News, Alice Springs.
So there is emergency in the emergency section, and as we know about that Kumanjai Walker case, it's very, very tragic and very, very sad, of course it is. So what you know, consider yourself very lucky from where we are if you're looking at these remote areas where you know, people go through such hardship just for some very, very simple things in life, so which we take for granted. So, you know, we should never take things for granted. Always be thankful for what you've got when you look at how hard many people are living their lives. Well, right now, let's go to Victoria. Well, Victoria is also bracing up for the widespread flooding.
It's a race against the clock in Rochester as a rising Campaspe River puts the town on edge.
I think it's more not knowing what's going to happen, just a bit unsure. But I'm pretty well, I think I'm prepared for the worst if it does happen.
The memories of 2011 are still fresh when 200 houses were inundated. This time the SES says anywhere between 50 and 800 houses could be flooded.
Given the information that we gathered after the 2011 floods, we've got enough data to know which houses are going to be inundated and which ones are not.
Even the smallest cracks, residents are trying to fill.
The water gets behind the brick, so we'll put some plastic in there to stop that.
Jeweller Terry Bryant's store was flooded in 2011 and she has a sense of deja vu.
After the 2011 floods, everybody had a little bit of mental strain from that, and they're now it's reliving it sort of thing.
Residents in flood-prone areas are also being advised to stock up on fresh water and medical supplies as communities could be isolated for days. Some, like those in the caravan park, are already making the decision to leave.
We're moving everything to high ground that we can.
Quite a few people around the town that have got quite a lot of anxiety, and that's why we're trying to be ahead of the wave a little bit if we possibly can.
With forecasts of 60 to 80 millimetres across large parts of Victoria tomorrow, the state is on high alert. Sarah Lawrence, ABC News, Rochester.
So being on high alert right there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, with that, it is right now time to go to our Daily India Report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you reports, interviews, features and more on India and the Indian diaspora. The International Monetary Fund has said that India's growth will slow down, yet India will fare better than other countries. The IMF also hailed India for prudent fiscal steps, such as capital expenditure for infrastructure building, saying it will arrest the impact of inflation on the poor.
As every country registers a slowdown in economic growth, India has not remained unimpacted. But India is doing better and is in a relatively bright spot compared to other countries according to the IMF. IMF Director of the Asian Pacific Department Krishna Srinivasan said the multilateral organization expects countries accounting for 1/3 of the global economy to go into the recession in 2022 and 2023. Inflation is rampant and that is the overarching story, explained IMF official. The IMF on October 11th in its World Economic Outlook projected a growth rate of 6.8% in 2022 as compared to 8.7% in 2021 for India. Now the projected growth for 2023 is expected to slide down further to 6.1%. More than a third of the global economy will contract in 2023, while the three largest economies, the United States, the European Union, and China, will continue to stall. There are three headwinds to this. First is financial conditions tightening. Second is the Ukraine war increasing food and commodity prices. And the third is the slowing down of the Chinese economy. India is having an effect with external demand coming down. Also domestically, inflation has been rising in the country.
India will prioritize strengthening multilateral institutions during its year-long presidency of the G20.
India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has said that India will prioritize strengthening multilateral institutions during its year-long presidency of the G20 group of developed and developing nations. She said multilateral institutions need to be strengthened and their capacity to deal with pandemics or any such future stressful global developments will have to be improved. Sitharaman remarked this while attending the annual meetings of the IMF and World Bank in Washington. She said that multilateral institutions existed yet problems remained and solutions were not coming through them. India will assume the presidency of the G20 for 1 year from December 1st, 2022 to November 30th, 2023. Under its presidency, India is expected to host over 200 meetings of the G20 across the country, including the G20 Leaders Summit at the level of heads of state or government, which is scheduled to be held on September 9th and 10th next year. In the context of the G20 presidency, Sitharaman also highlighted the need for finance to deal with natural disasters. She brought attention to the issue of climate finance, which requires contributions from developed countries to the fund that will help to develop and less developed countries counter carbon gas emissions.
Thousands of British tourists have had to cancel trips to India due to a last-minute visa rule change.
Thousands of British tourists were forced to cancel holidays in India owing to a last-minute change in visa rules, requiring them to present themselves in person at visa centres in the UK to apply for tourist visas. But there are no appointments available before their flights depart. Until now, thousands of Britishers relied on visa agents to obtain their India tourist visas for them for a fee. But on October 10th, the agents got a notification that visa agents were no longer allowed to obtain tourist visas on applicants' behalf, and instead the applicants had to present themselves in person at the VFS Global Application Centres. There are no appointments available for the next 2 months and there is no option to get a visa unless they book the appointment online. The UK is the largest tourist market for India. Industry analysts speculate this will hit employment in India. The High Commission of India in London issued a statement saying, quote, "It has come to a notice that unauthorized agents and individuals are illegally charging fees and collecting India visa applications for submission at VFS centres, misleading applicants and misrepresenting the services that they can legally provide. This matter is currently being investigated." High Commission of India emphasizes that VFS Global Services is the only authorized outsourcing provider for India-related passport or visa and consular services in the UK. End quote.
The newly inaugurated Mahakal Lok of Mahakaleshwar Temple Corridor in Ujjain will cater to more than 30 million devotees with ancient and spiritual splendor alongside world-class modern amenities.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on October 11th evening inaugurated the first phase of the Mahakaleshwar Temple Corridor development project in the holy city of Ujjain. The Mahakaleshwar Temple is one of the 12 Jyotirlings in India. Considered the holiest of holy shrines of the Hindus, millions of people converged at the Mahakaleshwar Temple from around the world during the Shravan month of the Hindu calendar. Ahead of dedicating the corridor to the nation, Prime Minister Modi also performed puja at Lord Mahakal Temple attired in traditional dhoti and stole. The newly built corridor is dotted with 108 ornate sandstone columns in a row bearing decorative trishuls design on top and mudras of Lord Shiva on its faces, and has gushing fountains surrounded by artistic sculptures of the deity and 53 illuminated murals depicting stories from Shiv Puran. Phase 1 of the Mahakal Lok project will help in enriching the experience of pilgrims visiting the temple by providing them with world-class modern amenities. The project aims to decongest the entire area and also put special emphasis on the conservation and restoration of heritage structures. Under the project, the temple precinct will be expanded nearly 7 times and the existing footfall of the temple, which is currently around 15 million per annum, is expected to be doubled. The mural wall along the path is based on Shiv Puran stories such as the act of creation, the birth of Ganesha, story of Sati and Daksha, among others. The plaza area, which is spread over 2.5 hectares, is surrounded by a lotus pond and contains the statue of Shiva along with fountains.
India receives 80% excessive rainfall in the post-monsoon season in 2022. This is seen as an impact of climate change due to global warming.
India has received almost 80% excess rain in the first 10 days of the post-monsoon season from October 1st to 10th and a whopping 405% extra rainfall in the country's northwest alone. 6 straight days of rain, including nearly 3 days of non-stop showers, have already made this month the wettest October in the national capital in 66 years and the 4th wettest in records going back to 1901. The 6-day spell was caused by an interaction of two weather events, a cyclonic circulation moving in from the Bay of Bengal via the Andhra coast and a western disturbance that brought moisture into the region from the Arabian Sea. Farmers have to make changes in their sowing schedules. The monsoon is critical for India as around 60% of the country's net arable land lacks irrigation and half its population is dependent on agriculture. On October 11th, IMD said the withdrawal line of monsoon was passing through Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat states. Conditions were likely to become favorable for the withdrawal of southwest from more parts of northwest and central India this week.
India's Samajwadi Party founder Mulayam Singh Yadav was cremated with full state honours and thousands of people paid last respects.
The last rites of Samajwadi Party founder Mulayam Singh Yadav were performed on October 11th with full honours in his native village of Saifai in the Etawah district of Uttar Pradesh. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla, Congress leader Mallikarjun Kharge, Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh Bhupesh Baghel, Chief Minister of Jharkhand Hemant Soren, former Andhra Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu, Bollywood stars Jaya Bachchan, Anderson Abhishek Bachchan and thousands of Samajwadi Party workers and leaders attended the funeral of Mulayam Singh Yadav. His son and party president Akhilesh Yadav lit the pyre. Mulayam Singh Yadav died on October 10th. The Uttar Pradesh government has announced 3 days of mourning on the death of the former state chief minister.
India won the final one-day international cricket match against South Africa in Delhi to clinch one-day international series 2-1.
Indian cricket team has clinched the 3-match ODI series 2-1 after defeating South Africa by 7 wickets in the final ODI in Delhi on October 11th. Indian bowlers bowled their hearts out, especially the spinners, as they stunned the South African batsmen. The Indian spin trio of Washington Sundar, Shahbaz Ahmed and Kuldeep Yadav bowled at the right lengths on a slow Kotla pitch to bag a total of 8 wickets. Yadav was a treat to the eyes as he bowled really well to clean up the South African lower order but missed out on a hat-trick. South Africa were bundled down on just 99 runs in 27.1 overs. In the run chase, Indian skipper Shikhar Dhawan came out to bat with Gill but unfortunately went back to the pavilion after a run-out. Following the first wicket, Ishan Kishan entered the pitch but scored only 10 off 18 balls. However, then Gill and Iyer took charge of the innings. Opener Shubman Gill played a stylish inning of 49 runs off 57 along with structured support from Shreyas Iyer, knocking 28 not out of 23 balls on the other end. With this win in the third ODI, quite a few Indian young batters have presented their name as probable contenders from the 2023 World Cup squad.
Riding high on her acting prowess in Ponniyin Selvan 1 and the success of the film, South Indian film star Aishwarya Lakshmi is gearing up for the release of her film Ammu. Amazon Prime Video released the trailer of the film on October 11th.
Aishwarya Lakshmi will soon be seen in Ammu, Amazon Prime Video's first Telugu language feature film, which has created quite a buzz among fans. The makers unveiled its teaser a few days ago and now Amazon Prime Video has unveiled the official trailer of Ammu. The film is touted to be a game changer for Aishwarya as it features her in the titular role. The video introduces us to Aishwarya's character who is stuck in an abusive marriage. She has to put up with domestic violence during her married life. She finds help from an unexpected corner. The trailer is an intense affair that caters to those fond of realistic stories. Ammu is a thriller written and directed by Charukesh Shekhar. It is produced by Karthik Subbaraj under his Stone Bench Films banner. The cast of the film includes Simha and Naveen Chandra. Ammu is set to premiere on Amazon Prime Video on October 19th. This will be Aishwarya's first release after Ponniyin Selvan, directed by Mani Ratnam, opened in theatres on September 30th.
Ammu nu line cross చేసేసావు నాకున్న కోపానికి
నాకు నువ్వంటే భయం లేదు.
That's all for this bulletin of the Daily India Report.
And thank you very much, Ankita, for that the Daily India Report. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to go to our functions and events, and let's take a look at what's happening in and around Brisbane.